Hey, you guys are cracking Godsman here, coming at you with another set of reveal discussion. Now, this reveal discussion is going to be pretty exciting because, as many of us anime enjoyers know, we have been awaiting the highly anticipated Divine Season 5 announcement, just craving any kind of snippet they can provide to us because, as we were all already aware, Season 4 has ended, and with it, the Divine's Deluxe arc, as it was, has come to a close. It had some highs, it had some lows. It was overall a very, I suppose, controversial era of the Divine's anime series. And having said that, there was one very key highlight right at the end, the final scene of Season 4, which promised more, and that would be the reveal of the Paralactic Clash, as well as a bigger role that takes place within the mythish plotline, as I'll call it for now. Now, we finally have more information today to go over, and not only do they cover a little bit about the setting in which Season 5 will be taking place, but we also get a couple of character bios, including the new redhead character that we saw from the end of Season 4, and on top of that, we even get some exciting unit reveals, two of which in particular are super unexpected and open the floodgates to a whole new era of card design that we have not yet broached in Vanguard. So I'm super excited to get into all this with you, but before we do, let me just briefly mention that if you do enjoy Vanguard content like this, then definitely check out the other videos on my channel, whether it be top 10s discussions, fight nights, custom card reviews, or anime reactions. Can't wait for Season 5 to come out proper. Definitely gonna be reacting on that. This is the place to be, so check out more of my videos, and if you like what you see, consider leaving a subscribe and turn on the notification bell. Every little bit helps here. And with all that said, let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes. I hope you enjoy. So we're gonna start off with some of the more anime-centric of the reveals, and then we'll end off on the TCG info, with the final bit being the highlight, as it were, in my opinion, because that's where we're going to get into the Super Pog unit reveals, which really usher in the next paradigm shift in card design for Vanguard, right? But let's go ahead and start off light with a little tidbit on the setting of Season 5. So, this post here states, in Kanazawa Kaga Province, which for those of you who don't keep up, Akaga is the basic area where all Divines takes place in, so it's still the same basic city slash province, country, county, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, so Kaga Province, where Akina and others live, an abnormal phenomenon was observed. A city enveloped in thick fog, a soaring tower. That is the phantasmal world. On the night the crimson moon rises, they become phantoms. Ooh, so we got a lot of different things going on with this one. So obviously, as we all know, right, at the end of Season 4, the Paralactic Clash was unveiled by this really menacing, mysterious figure in what appeared to be like a Keter-esque throne room, right? So obviously the supernatural is going to come back into it, and we're going to be returning to yet another of the tried and true tournament formula that Divinez has kind of become known for by this stage, but it seems like there's a much more shrouding and mystery going on with this one. We still don't know anything about the Paralactic Clash, but whatever it is, it seems to be affecting the region as a whole. As we see in this picture, let me go ahead and blow it up here. You see this whole freaking tower that looks like it's straight out of some sci-fi movie, and it's cropped up in what's otherwise a metropolitan area. This is likely the Kaga province, right? So whatever is happening on Crate, it is having a real direct impact on the human world. Now, some more of the description here to get into. Not many of us, maybe many of us, I'm not quite sure what demographic would know about this, or the percentage of the demographic, but there is a lore bit that dropped a little while back during the events of Divine Season 4, and it had to deal with the Red Moon. Now, this is a plotline that is tied into Vaisrug's story. See, Vaisrug was trying to test the denizens of Cray to see who was worthy to assist him in dealing with the Red Moon phenomenon, a phenomenon in which certain beings of his other world are sort of taken over and driven to madness and monstrification by him. And so Reziel, being a doctor, much like Vaisrug being a doctor, after Reziel was able to succeed in the trial of the moon, they more or less came together to try and solve this dilemma. That's all we knew for the time being on that front. However, there was another lore tidbit to catch you guys up on, which had to deal with Liel, where Liel and Reziel were communicating for a good bit, right? And it was bittersweet because Liel ended up disappearing not too long afterwards. And in addition, Dragiled apparently apparently also disappeared. So some of these key units are kind of vanishing off the face of the earth as if they were spirited away, right? And that might be really cool because we get a little bit of a horror vibe here, and that spirited away will sort of maybe get explained in one of the future info tips it's going to get into, right? But another thing I want to mention is that phantasmal world is the terminology you're using here, right? So obviously we have this world that's sort of like the other side. And what's neat about this is, I don't know if this was intentional per se, right? But I'm a really big fan of the Silent Hill franchise. Silent Hill, one of its trademark aesthetics was that there was the other world, as it was called, where you would pull into this nightmarish realm that was sort of a perversion of the real world. And one of the hallmarks of the transition between the real world and the other world was the fog of Silent Hill. A really, really deep fog like curdled milk that would just sweep you in, no visibility. You don't know where you went until you're already made it to the other side. Freakish, right? So I wonder if they aren't trying to do that kind of transition there. Everyone gets swept into the deep white fog, and then on the other side they emerge and find this tower here. And no one can penetrate the fog unless they're probably chosen, allowed to. I would imagine that the mythish that some of the key fighters from the previous seasons, like Akira, Michiru, etc., they might be able to enter this tower for the Paralactic Clash, so I had to take another guess there. But everyone else, I don't know. Will they go into the deep sleep? Will they just be sitting there as bystanders, not knowing what to do? Maybe there's going to be a secondary rule for the rest of the city where they're laid under siege. Vanguard has broached that before with the Link Joker invasion in season 3, right? That is a lot of questions that I don't think we're going to get answers to until we actually watch the series, but it does raise a lot of good, interesting theories on the overall state of the city and where the plotline's going to go with it, right? So it's equal bits revelation and mysteries. I kind of like this. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next tidbit here. We got a couple of character bios. Now, this is the new redhead character that we saw do kind of some minor bystander kind of observer role from the last season. She was watching the fights and she was really digging it, right? And I think a few of us may remember her because I'm almost certain she is that girl who was side by side with Hikari when she was younger, Hikari/Erica, and now she's all grown up. Now, the bio actually gives us a little bit more insight to who she is. So this is Kanami Ishikawa is her name, and Kanami is Kagetsu Yakumo's cousin. So there's actually a familiar relation between Kagetsu and her. That's not the only connection. She's also a student in the Vanguard class. Now, the Vanguard class is the class that Kagetsu was teaching because he was also kind of a Vanguard mentor off on the side after he crashed out from the initial tournament series and came back into Deluxe later. Now, she's a high school senior, according to the bio, so she's basically an adult by this point. That means that we're probably going to see someone who's a little bit more mature compared to like someone who's kind of like younger and naive. I'm not 100% on that, but I mean, it was significant enough that they brought it up, so I figured that might be what they're implying with it. She has a close twin sister and possesses a bright, cheerful personality that draws people to her. So already establishing a little bit more of her character, but the close twin sister bit is kind of interesting because if I'm understanding this right, that's probably in reference to the older One-san that was with Erica and Kanami. And if that's the case, then there's another mystery right there. What the heck is going on with that character, right? So they allude to her, it's important enough for that, and also probably important to her character in particular, but we don't really know anything else about that. Now, the final tidbit states that along Akina, she confronts the Phantom World, which suddenly appears. And if that wasn't enough, we also get her unit reveal right here. Now, this unit is called Eternal Great Magician Belclair. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know what to think about Belclair. Belclair it's a pretty art, right? And it's still okay, as you can see with the flag down here, and obviously about the greenery around her, right? But I do have to take umbrage with Belclair a little bit because it basically stole Shoujo Doji's whole color palette. I mean, this is kind of a gender swap shoujo. Maybe it's just me, it's probably not just me, but I just have to point out that I'm like, they didn't exactly break the bank when it came to this design, which is a little unfortunate. And it's also kind of weird that once again we've got like Stoicheia for the singular new character reveal, right? Ruka did that, this did that, and obviously as far as new character reveals, right, like one of the main pivotal characters that came out in season 2 Divinez was Kuon. Well, pivotal's kind of in retrospect maybe not so pivotal, but in the moment he was supposed to be like a really big deal, right? And that was also Stoicheia. So they really have been bolstering up Stoicheia lately. Is it just me? Maybe there's a little bit of a favoritism going on there, but anyway, so this is Belclair. Now I do really appreciate the sort of like sorceress witch kind of aesthetic on characters in media, so this definitely resonates that way. And it seems like she's going to have something to do with more of a classic Stoicheia approach. So whether it be token spam, maybe it's a stun unit if they're really trying to hit on the witch side of things, but she's called the magician, so I don't know if she's going to be a control unit necessarily. I feel like she's going to be more of a combo deck that has like a few key utility cards to swap around. I don't really have any evidence to support that. It's just a personal theory, so I'm very curious to hear what you guys think Belclair will be capable of in the comment section below, because I don't think I have as much to say about this compared to the theories regarding non-nuclear, which all of them got thrown around the window. They did not live up to those theories at all with non-nuclear. But this one's a lot more vague, which ironically means we may be a little bit more impressed with it because we just do not know where this is going. As for Kaname herself, overall I kind of like it. Now, admittedly, I wasn't a big fan of her when she first popped up in season 4 because it felt a little bit shoehorned in. I'm like, oh god, here we go. I think every time she popped up on screen during the anime reactions that season, I was like, oh hey, a reminder that season 5 is coming. Like that's basically what went through my mind, right? But now that season 5 is here, I think she's a lot more welcome. And I mean, the overall idea here is that she's a bit more empathetic based on the description. They give her a lot of positive traits, right? Bright, cheerful personality, right? Draws people in. And then they also use the specific wording alongside Akina as she confronts the Phantom World. So she's meant to be on the quote-unquote good guy side, relatively speaking. So she should be an ally in dark times. So that does give me a bit of a positive impression in that way. And I'm just going to say flat out, her design is cuter. I actually like her design a lot more than her unit's design, if you can believe it. So overall, yeah, it seems like Kaname might be able to play kind of a nice role here. The only thing about it that I do want to mention before I move on, though, is that we're already in season 5 with Kaname's reveal, so I don't know if we should expect a lot coming from her, because one thing about the standard era anime that we've come to realize from whether it be Overdress, Will Dress, or Divinez is that not all characters are really handled equally, and some characters that are introduced in like later seasons don't exactly maintain that kind of relevance in seasons past the one they're introduced in. So cases in point, right? Like in Will Dress, we see characters like Sam, for instance, Sam Fridson, whatever happened to him, right? He basically dropped off the face of the earth. Another key example here, Suzune, right? Suzune is such a big part in Divinez season 3, but she doesn't fight at all in season 4, hardly pops up in season 4 aside from just being like in the bleachers. And if that wasn't enough, we haven't heard any mention of her. So unless there's some sort of reveal to the contrary, which there isn't here today, spoiler alert, Suzune might also just kind of be doomed to obscurity like many of these other characters. So I don't know what the future holds for Kaname, but who knows, maybe just being tied to Kakatsu is enough as like a redemption, because Kakatsu actually remains pretty relevant, right? He was important in season 3, he had a couple really key moments in season 4, and now in season 5 obviously he should be front and center with the whole mythish plotline. So yeah, that's all I gotta say on Kaname there. Overall, pretty cute character. This unit is a bit interesting to me. I'm a bit lukewarm on it overall when you take together the designs and the fact that it's not a Stoicheia unit, but honestly this has potential, and maybe even if it makes up for non-nuclear, which I did not like ultimately, then hey, I'll consider it a bushy W. So third post is another bio. We don't really have to go through this very much because it's just Akina. Cool pose, right? But yeah, I know some people will groan that yes, for the 5th time in a row, we've got Akina as protagonist, and this means that Akina is now tied with Yugioh for number of seasons as the protagonist, because Yugioh had 5 seasons total, and now Akina's on his 5th too, so they really kind of like leveled out there. Now his description reads, Akina Miyoto, the protagonist, period. Yeah, boom, even they're like, yes, it's the protagonist, guys, just read and move on. So he's a third year high school student, so he should be basically like aged up right alongside Kanami, more or less. So they're more or less the same age, and he is a family oriented older brother, and that's sure, dude, after all the years he spent like being dedicated to his sister, right, by her side. Yeah, family oriented is the most mild mannered way of putting it. He lives with his father, who is swamped with work. Weird bit there, but all right, I guess the father might be a little more important, and his younger sister Hikari. He has a personality where he will not hesitate to do anything for someone else's sake. See, now back in season 1 and 2, right, when the intrigue and glow of Akina was a lot more prevalent, the people were really trying to touch on the possibility that Akina goes down a little bit of a darker path or a bit of a crash out, because he has such a serving attitude to the point where he may put himself last versus others, and it'll cause a sort of a mini downfall at some point or another. This never happened. If anything, the opposite was proven, where for being the kindest guy on the planet, he was awarded with the Fated King and beat Sibyl and ended up sweeping Deluxe and all that, right? So kind of Gary Stu that way, but still, who knows, maybe now we'll be able to delve a little bit deeper into the shortcomings of his character, give him a bit more of a character arc, because while season 3/4 is supposed to be presented as a bit of a character arc because it touches into his motivations as an individual, those motivations ended up being kind of shallow because it's more or less propped up based on the situation. Oh, I got invited to the tournament. This tournament's really good. I want to play Vanguard professionally now. It's like, it was probably the most baseline answer you could have came to that fundamental question of like, who are you and what does Vanguard mean to you, right? So the last little bit of the snippets here says that he stands up in order to return to Kaga, which has become the Phantom World to its original form. Now, here's the thing, right? This again is very Silent Hill, and I love that because I messed me some Silent Hill, dude. Silent Hill F's pretty good, by the way, in case you guys haven't played that video game. Total aside, but I love that video game. You should play it too if you're a fan of the horror genre in any capacity. So he is apparently, the genre we're going with is we have the team of good guys and they are going to be squaring off to liberate Kaga. Again, I don't know if everyone else is in a bystander position, if they're going to be chased down by units and attacked, or they just put into an eternal sleep. I don't know anything about that, but there is sort of like a city liberation type like theme going on here. I don't know how many fighters are going to be allowed to do that. Is it limited only to the Paralactic Clash? Is it possible that all the Mythos users aren't fighting against each other, but with one another against the evil denizens? It's possible, right? And for that matter, I say evil denizens, but whoever said it was evil necessarily, right? Like, this definitely feels like a potential hostile takeover, but maybe there's like there's some intentions that are a little bit like sympathetic. I don't know. It is a cool genre though, because again, supernatural elements is front and center, and I'm not gonna lie, dude, I'm just really biased to the aesthetic that got going on here. The misty white tower, the probably gonna be some Keter architecture going on in there. There's a horror adjacent bit. It's really sick. It's very different and a bit macabre even, depending on like how dark they want to get with this. Sort of it has the potential to kind of be like the Heavens feel of Divinez, which is a Fate reference. So if you guys are Fate lovers, then you probably know what I mean by that. So yeah, that's, I think the most interesting thing about this bio is this bit here, where they kind of like delve just a tiniest bit more into what the heck is going on here, rather than Akina himself, because admittedly he's very much a blank slate for the most part, right? Now that he's one deluxe, like, yeah, I want to go pro, but then this completely different storyline pops up anyway, so it just feels like they didn't transition well into one another as far as like a linear plot is concerned. So now that we got into the anime stuff, let me go ahead and touch on the card stuff, because we got a few pretty exciting card reviews. Now, for the IMHO less exciting ones, we got some Stride deck set stuff going on here. So no new Stride deck sets still, right? So all of you Gavriel, Fenrir, Altmile, Asha lovers, Gurgit lovers, Claret lovers, whatever lovers, right? Tachi lovers, y'all are gonna have to wait your turn still, because we are here to boost up Shiranui Luard. Great. We knew this was coming. Now they're going to get their third strides along with a really key companion unit. Over on Shiranui's side, to surprise, no one's surprise, it is our dear good friend Mujin Lord. And with it, and this is actually a little bit cool, they chose Tamahagane as the companion unit. So to kind of follow through with the theme of the tertiary strides that we got from Messiah and Chronojet, where they each got a really powerful grade 2 companion. These guys also get a really powerful companion, but as you turn over to the Luard side, we of course got Dragranker Ogma, which again, surprise, surprise, people realized that these two were probably the most prominent strides from the G-Next area where both these strategies both originated from. These were the two main strides that didn't get transferred over to the D series yet, so it was only a matter of time. But what is intriguing to me is that they chose a Fuanmok. Now, Fuanmok was a GZ era card, and moreover, it was a grade 1. So they're actually going to make the key companion unit for Luard a grade 1, which makes sense because he is based on the ritual mechanic, which requires grade 1s in full. But it is cool that they decided to give us something like Fuanmok because it emphasizes more on the ritual scaling element of it. So I'm hoping that these cards here, right? I have concerns with each of them because the fact of the matter is, let me go ahead and get a quick sip of water here. So the fact of the matter is that both of these strategies have caused a fair bit of problem during their tenure in D series. Initially, Shiranui was even more overwhelming, right? You had like upwards like 7 something attacks, right? And most of them had Christ Christ numbers, and it just scaled out of control. It was the clear tier 0 deck of that format, right? So this thing resulted in a ton of different hits, right? You had to hit Stealth Engine, you had to choice restrict Drag Veda with Bakudo, right? You had to limit its key multi-attack or food. So they hit it so many times just to bring it down. So now they finally dare to support it again. And I hope they don't overblow this deck, because if they do, I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of Jover at that point. People, I think there is sort of a generational trauma that came with Shiranui, right? Shiranui was pretty rough in G, especially in GZ to deal with. Now G next, it was fair, it was annoying but fair. GZ, oh my god. And then Premium, it just tortured our souls. We had a bit of a reprieve with V, admittedly, but still, Premium tortured our souls. And Crest Nui was the clear #1 deck in Premium, and this thing was just shredding D series. So this caused so many problems, and people were over it way long before they even decided to properly hit the thing. So we might be broaching on Taboo here, which I guess is fitting for Shiranui's whole theme, with the Taboo Heterodox Evil Eye, right? Yes, I do know that name. Now, over on the other side here, I've also got concerned with Luards. Now, Luards wasn't as offensive of a batch at first glance, but Luard later propagated into the damage deny Luard, which involved PG looping and just like compressing nothing but crits to one-shot your opponent, right? Which, in my opinion, while it's a little bit more thoughtful compared to Shiranui, right? So it's not really a strap on the helmet real tight kind of strategy. It is arguably even more toxic because it is a non-interactive way of playing the game, right? Your opponent doesn't really get to have any traction against you. You just sort of deny the fundamental flow of the game by not giving them any damage and then denying all their attacks, so nothing can ever really break through, whereas you just kind of one-shot them, right? It's also kind of harkening back to some of the most like sickening elements of Premium, where Premium had certain 0 to 6 strategies, I kid you not, right? Back during like some of the worst eras of Premium. So Ogma here is a little concerning too, because while Ogma I don't think directly supports that style, which is the good news, the bad news is that Ogma, for those of you who don't know, his skill stated that you can retire a number of grade 1s on Ritual 5 in order to force your opponent to put an equivalent number of cards you've retired from the hand or field to the drop zone. And then of course you draw if you put a certain number, right? But that's besides the point. So basically it is a potential huge hand minus. And while in a G series, right, where it originally came from, this was fine because not only did your opponent usually have more cards on field to give for it, but you also hit like a wet noodle. Ogma had no power lines to speak of, so you just kind of swung natty to face, so your opponent had a easier time guarding even with the limited number of cards in hand at their disposal, right? So Ogma was more like of a niche attrition kind of card, meant to like catch certain like self-field wiping decks off guard, right? But in D series, you have the Strike deck crest, so you're going to get a ton of numbers to your field. that's a problem. That means that if Ogma works even remotely the same way that it did back then, we're going to be in a much bigger ordeal. And this is even worse off because one of the fundamental like design philosophies that Bushy has done with D-Series is that most of your cards will generally convert field to hand, right? A lot of like put this card into soul and draw, or retire it and draw, or something like that, right? They do a lot of that convert field to hand kind of gimmick, which Ogma directly punishes. So not only does Ogma get a buff by being a strike deck set, but the opponent is also at a disadvantage because of the nature of the format being played here. So I think Ogma is very problematic. And Fwanmok is just a really strong card, right? So I'm not too concerned about Fwanmok coming back. And I mean, shoot, I really like the witch aesthetic, so you know this art's really doing it for me guys. But preferences aside, aesthetic wise, Fwanmok was also one of the most powerful accelerators of the ritual mechanic out there. So they do try to interpret that, then Ogma would be fairly easy to achieve, which could be an issue because again, Ogma might be an issue. So having said that, it is exciting that these guys are kind of coming back. Oh, I guess I didn't even mention, but Tomahawk Metsu was a hell of a great 2 back then too, right? I mean, getting easy 10,000 power along with a +1 from like top of deck was really ahead of its time. Like maybe not too ahead of its time, but he was a really hefty grade 2 rear guard. So we're probably talking about some serious like power and plussing. So Shiranui's like fundamental beatdown is probably going to get supplemented really well with Tamahagane. So he's probably just going to, if this becomes a problem, then Tamahagane will be a part of that problem. Mujin Lord, I don't think ever really was too much of a problem. Mujin Lord was more of a situational finisher where you had to poke the opponent a bunch on the different circles. Because here's the thing, Mujin Lord would take a certain number of your opponent's rear cards up to the number of cards in your G zone, dominate them, and attack them one at a time, right? But he didn't give them a massive power up. And on top of that, that was basically all Mujin Lord did for the most part. So I think the thing with Mujin Lord is it sort of depends on if they give him some of the X factor. Otherwise, I think he will be a finisher for the archetype, but he may not be that bad. It is still a lot of attacks though, and even though Furai is limited, we still have other restanders, so I don't know, it might be bad, right? Like, so these guys are really powerful, probably gonna be really powerful in what they do based on their precedent, but it's more so just a principle supporting Shiranui. Meanwhile, the principle of supporting Luard isn't as bad despite how degenerate it's become in recent days. I'll hold firm in that opinion. I'm a Shadow Paladin main, so trust me, I knew of better days for Luard, and this is not one of them. Now, having said that, it's the specific units in this case that I think could like lead to a very specific kind of abuse point. So that's where I stand with these. Overall, pretty exciting, but there could be some issues here. So finally, new units. Ooh, yeah. You want to know what these units are? Check this out. We've got Savant of Taboo, Zorga Phantom. Meanwhile, we also got Licia Mate, Magnolia Phantom. These are new Zorga and Magnolia, but guys, they did it. They made units retrains in different nations. I know Liel started that technically, but guys, this opens the freaking floodgates. You've got Mad Scientist Zorga right here, baby, sporting the ghastly white and black coat, which is so cool. I love that on him. He's great art. Meanwhile, they decided to make Magnolia finally sell on the markets by turning into a waifu, which Magnolia was a guy, by the way, originally, so this is technically a gender bend, but that's not really impactful. It's just more so the fact that it's now a lyrical card, therefore it must be a girl. Remember when they said that guys go to lyrical monster tip? Yeah, what a lie. So these new units are this is really opening the floodgate, dude. I love it. Now, having said that though, I want to immediately voice a couple of the concerns here, but after that I gotta go into the theory zone, right, about some of the other units that this could propagate, right? One complaint is that this is not that inspired, because again, we're still broaching the same basic units. We're just kind of like switching them up a bit with retrains from different nations. So the only innovation is that they're in different nations, so it might impact their play style. But I do want to counter and say that yes, it is a little like creatively bankrupt in a way, because you know, this is our 5th Zorga form, for instance, and Magnolia just got a retrain like back in set 8, dude, right? And this would be set 13. So I mean, like, I don't know if we were like waiting that long personally, but that's just me. So I don't know, like I get those complaints, but at the same time, it is nice because they take some of the fundamental core strategies that we used to have, right? Like we used to really like have as the hallmarks, the baselines for those units, and then they're going to put a twist on them, right? So for instance, with Zorga, right, I think it's fairly clear that Zorga should be interacting with set orders, and he should be doing some sort of alchem magic with set orders. So my personal theory is that he's going to choose certain like set orders in your order zone and activate their like on place abilities once each. So that kind of like combination is sort of like his rank 8 version of the alchem magic, which they might just call like alka science or alka technics or just alchemy, maybe. I mean, it's technically correct, right? So they might just do that. Meanwhile, with Magnolia, I can see where, because Magnolia was always like a bit of a multi-attack deck, but now that it's a lyrical unit, they might do more of a guerrilla warfare tactic of bounce call. And if they do bounce calling, that could be neat because then you might be able to like reignite certain on-place abilities with Magnolia, which harkens back to some of the older times of lyrical where you kind of had that as your big cutting edge in addition to draw power, right? So they're taking the same basic style, but they're putting some spins on them, which if Bushiroad does this correctly, which is the other complaint, because, you know, some people are saying, oh yeah, there's potential they might just mess this up and just make them more or less the same and not really do anything here. I think that if they do this right and they actually make these guys feel kind of defined under themselves and take full advantage of the new nations they're placed in, this is really fire. Now, one thing I want to note as well is that there is one common thing about these two specifically units they chose, which is that these were the forerunners of the Stoicheia paradigm. What I mean by that is that Magnolia was the first ever Stoicheia boss that we got in D-Series, followed by Zorga in the very first booster set of Vanguard. So these two were basically the OGs, and so they took the two Stoicheias and threw them out into other nations, right? So I'm imagining that as we get reveals, they're probably going to do that for the other nations. So they'll probably take at the very minimum, they'll do it for the other 4 main nations. So Keter, Brand, Dragon Empire, and Dark State should all be getting like a twofer going in different directions. And Lyrical might also be able to get in on that because they threw something to Lyrical. So I'd say it's probably reasonable, right? Now, as for what units might get swapped out, that's where it gets really interesting, because even though these two units share that commonality of being the OGs in the anime, they're not really that too connected, because this is obviously Masanori's unit and then the Megami's unit respectively, right? So maybe what's going on here, and this is a personal thing that really comes back to what we sort of like touched on with the Phantom World stuff here and here. We might be getting into a scenario where some of the sideline characters get sort of swept up into alternate world versions. And if that's the case, like they're coming from like a different dimension, then we might be actually fighting different dimension versions of the fighters themselves. And that would be the whole parallactic element, is it's us versus other us, as weird as that is to say it that way. If that's the case, I'm on board to an extent, because it would be cool for a gimmick, but I feel like that's a little bit too ambitious for season 5 in particular, right? If this was something that we had done from like season 2 or 3 and we had multiple seasons to back it up, I think that might have been cooler, because then you could really delve into like some of the roster, and you wouldn't even just have like one-off episodes for some of the more important alternate world characters, and they would actually be able to have some time to like breathe and grow on us as like as an audience, right? So it's a little weird if they were to bring the fighters, but if it's like more or less just the units, that is a different story. I think unit-wise it is kind of cool. Now, another complaint people had, and I feel like it's probably worth bringing up, is that this is it's sort of in the same vein as the like the creative bankruptcy, but Bushi is kind of like coming back to the tried and true method of retraining a popular unit into a wrong form. So, and when I mean wrong, I mean like, oh, this isn't the unit we've come to know and love, right? So reverses were like that, Mask is like that, and so now we're getting this one too. And I guess the Red Moon is supposed to be more of a dimensional leap, but the whole weird thing is like the Berserk element of it, right? Because units were kind of like going crazy with it, dog. So does that mean the people on Earth are going to go crazy, and then it's these crazy people that have these units? Because I don't know, I mean, are we going to just see Berserk Masanori like just like spill his guts out and like fight, I don't know, Toya or something with this? It's hard to say where we're going with that. Now, let's go ahead and talk about one last topic. It's a really fun topic. Let's theorize some of the potential cross-nation units, as I think I'm going to call them now, the cross-nation. So obviously we got one for Brant and one for Lyrical here, right? But let's think about some of the other units that might get cross-nations, and I'm going to be focusing primarily on like the units that I think would be coolest in certain nations. So don't take what I say to heart to the extent I'm like, oh yeah, these guys are most likely going to get it. I'm just saying these are some of the coolest ideas that I had in mind, right? So let's go ahead and start with the one that I know everyone is going to know that I'm going to bring this up. I have to bring it up. At this point, I'm contractually obligated to bring it up because the community and I have basically memed this into existence together. I do believe we might be getting Dark Reziel. Dark States Reziel, edgy black fallen angel Reziel from a different world, a bad world, a world in which good guys don't wick, and Reziel went unemployed and quit being a doctor, kind of like Toya. Yeah, maybe that's a sign of things to come from. Anyway, so Dark Reziel. Yeah, we might get Dark Reziel, and if that's the case, oh boy. Oh, the memes come true, dude. But I mean, I'll play it, I'll enjoy it, but God, we've been talking about this precisely because it's like such low-hanging fruit. It's so kind of cringe in a way to have Dark Reziel, right? But like, despite the cringe, I mean, they could sell it well with a good story and lore behind it and proper presentation, so it wouldn't be the worst. But on the onset here, I'm just gonna say it, Dark States Reziel, bada bing, bada boom. That's what I'm gonna guess there. So what else could we get, right? I want to bring up probably one of the funniest ones, but it would be so hyped. So, you know how Zorga here is getting one, right? Well, another one of the faded ones kind of came out from like the general era, right? Velstra. Now, Velstra was retrained into a faded one the way Zorga was, and Velstra hasn't really done like Jack Diddley in a good while, so I think he's probably due for a little bit of attention again. I want, and tell me your guys' variants on Velstra, right? I imagine a Keter Sanctuary Velstra where he is Pope Welstra. He is a priest going around with holy gizmos, being an absolute freak of nature, bro. He is the mad monk, the man who says, catch these holy hands, heathens. It would be so funny, and I would be so happy to play that. I mean, it would be cool too, because Velstra's like fundamental is that he is sort of like a crazed leader figure, and you know, he has sort of like a radical view on whatever industry he's in. Now, of course, it's the business industry in the actual CEO Welstra, right? But in this case, I'm supposing they switch it over to like the religious side of things, because you know, that's just Keter in a nutshell, right? Over here, I mean, my kind of basis for that is that you've got Zorga here, who instead of like a mad magician, like a mad necromancer, he became a mad scientist. And then meanwhile, Magnolia, right? Magnolia went from being a king to being a queen, which, I mean, low-hanging fruit, but like, yeah, sure. So that's another alternate world kind of thing going on there. Now, in addition to Velstra, another one I had thought about is that good old Youthberg, right? Rika definitely got jobbed into Lux, so it'd be really nice if Rika like had a little bit of love here, and I think we might have had something here for the Skyfall Chin. That would be a potential Dragon Empire Youthberg. My theory is that Youthberg in a Dragon Empire alternate timeline would have been a Dragon Knight, and he's trying to rise up against the dragons in the sky, right? So instead of like the sky dwellers in Keter Sanctuary, it's like actual dragons. And he does this with a variety of Draconic Divine arms. So you know how Buff Saga uses arms cards? Well, you know, maybe Youthberg will be able to use arms cards too, right? And there's kind of an aesthetic there for that too from the crossover dress side of things, right? Because for those of you who may have not caught on, there is a weapon theming behind the different equipped dragons, because they're actually called equipped dragons, and also the Virenas themselves. Like Braum Virena is a freaking crossbow. You have swords, which is Gara Virena, so on and so forth, right? So maybe these kind of like equip units could be like a part of his like new version of revolve form, and maybe it's not even called revolve form, but something completely different. I could also see where he does do a revolve dress like kind of thing, but he doesn't revolve dress in other youth perks. He does a drag shift and he turns into like a dragon, or maybe he like rides different mounts, like a Tachikaze mount and a Draconic mount. Could be kind of cool, right? So there's a lot of different ways you could take youth perk, but I just really think the Dragon Empire for him. And I mean, if Magnolia gets a retrain here, youth perk might as well too, because Exists and Rebuild came out in the same set 8 that Magnolia Patriarch did. So the timing is the exact freaking same. So yeah, that's another theory there. And I guess one other theory that I kind of like want to bring up here, because I don't know, I just really would like for this unit to get love, right? So we're talking about Lyrical, and I know that I know that like one thing that would be kind of cool is if we got a Lishifiel, but the Lishifiel, because Lishifiel was a Destined one with Yuna, and now that Mikoto's kind of being more of a focus in the season, she got a Mythish after all, presumably, maybe Yuna can also kind of get propped up as an opponent for her from an alternate dimension. So I imagine a Dark States Lishifiel where she is indeed like a supremacy, but like she's on a throne and she's sort of like this dark queen kind of maybe, I'm not sure if it would be like a seductress kind of thing or just more of like a cold ice queen from Dark States kind of feel. Could be either or depending on what they want to go aesthetics wise, but I do think like that would be really funny for Lishifiel, especially because I actually did see this one it was like this weird art that someone did where it was Lishifiel mask, and she was like the smuggest creature on the planet when she was wearing the mask, right? And I don't know, that just kind of inspired me to think, hey, what if there actually was kind of like a super smug Dark Queen Lishifiel that Mikoto had to fight against with Chris and Cadenza? That might be kind of a cool fight, I don't know. And I think it could also be a little bit silly the way that their original bout was a little silly, right? Just in a bit of a different way, which I guess a little bit more stakes on the line here, relatively speaking. Well, actually season 2 had stakes, so you know, what am I even saying? Anyway, so those are some of my ideas here. I am so looking forward to hearing what your guys' takes on for potential cross-nation units will be. And again, when I say cross-nation, it's just that they change nations, not that they're dual nations, because based on the flags here, I'm understanding that they are single nations, just different from their home nation. That's about it. So let me know what your guys' theories are. What kind of units do you think would be cool in other specific nations? What would be the theming behind them? Maybe a little bit of this theoretical lore on what changed in order to put them down this direction. Maybe Chronojet Dragon moved a chair. Who knows? So I'm looking forward to that. And if you have any other theories about the plot itself and where the anime might be going, let me know about that as well, because I'm definitely in this for the long haul, so I'm willing to have a discussion about that until the end of the anime itself comes to pass. With all that said, if you guys did like this video, once again, check out my channel for other Vanguard content, whether it be top 10s, discussions, fight nights, custom card reviews, or anime reactions like the one coming in a couple months here. I've got it all, so go ahead, check it out. Support us by liking, commenting, subscribing, and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss out on another one of these videos. With all that said, take care, and God bless.